Welcome to the WordPress Photography Podcast, the podcast for photographers who want to learn how to get the most out of WordPress to grow their photography business. You don't need to be a geek to understand WordPress. Settle back and listen as we show you how. Now, here's your host, Scott Wyden-Kivowitz.
Welcome to episode 110. My name is Scott Wyden-Kivowitz. Today we're talking about what happens when one WordPress plugin impacts another WordPress plugin. WooCommerce came out with their version 4.5.0, and when that happened, something interesting happened in the WordPress space, in the WordPress community, and it's something that happens all the time, and it's something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, and I think that is why I am recording this episode right now for you. You see, when WooCommerce came out with version 4.5.0, it wound up breaking a lot of sites. And what happened is that there was actually something going on. I don't know all the details, but something conflicted with WP Rocket Cache, which is also a very popular plugin. But it broke a lot of sites that use both WooCommerce and WP Rocket Cache. And what people did is they flocked to WP Media, who makes WP Rocket Cache, and they started blaming the caching plugin for breaking their websites. Now it's easier, and we find this at Imagely as well, it's easier to blame the products that you may not classify as essential. If you have an e-commerce store running on WooCommerce, then of course you're going to think that WooCommerce is essential and that caching is not. You're going to go and blame the non-essential, quote unquote, non-essential plugin for damaging your website. We see this with Next-Gen Gallery. For example, if you're a photographer and you have Yoast SEO and you have Next-Gen Gallery and for some reason something broke, you're of course going to go and blame Next-Gen Gallery over blaming Yoast SEO, when more than likely it was actually Yoast SEO that broke things, but that's okay. So I saw this happening. I saw this happening in a lot of Facebook groups and on Twitter and so on and so forth. All these different people blaming WP Rocket Cache for breaking their sites, when in reality, it was a combination of things. It was WordPress 5.5 came out, which was a big change, mind you, that broke a lot of websites in itself because of the JavaScript changes that they made. But also WooCommerce 4.5.0 came out at the same time and wreaked havoc on everything that was running WooCommerce at the time. So I believe that WooCommerce released a patch and then they have the update coming, and I think that's all resolved. The point of me sharing this story with you is to just remind you that there are humans, first of all, behind each brand, right? There are humans behind WooCommerce. There are humans behind WP Rocket Cache, and there are humans behind Next-Gen Gallery. If you run into a problem, whatever that problem might be, whether that problem is actually our software, their software, another person's software, whoever it is, remember there are humans behind that software. There are people that have feelings that are doing their jobs to help you and to build these products for you. The point of this is just to remind you that you should be kind. Treat people how you want to be treated with the respect that you would like in return. But I also want to remind you that before you go placing blame, you might want to do some research first. Because when this WP Rocket Cache WooCommerce conflict came about 2 weeks prior to me recording this episode, the reason for the break was already out there. All you had to do is Google it, and you would have found the reason in the support forums on WordPress.org. You would have seen this already, that it wasn't WP Rocket Cache, that it was in fact WooCommerce. Yet people still went to WP Rocket Cache to blame them. So go figure. Please do some research beforehand before you place blame. And if you are going to place blame, please be kind about it, because there's people behind that software. Thank you for listening. If you're watching this, thank you for watching this episode. This has been episode 110, and I will look forward to seeing you in episode 111, where I hope to have a special guest on for you. Be sure to subscribe anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And please leave us a kind review, because, well, we'll give you a shout out if you do. Until next time.
You've been listening to the WordPress Photography Podcast. To listen to other episodes and to subscribe to the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and more, please visit imagely.com/podcast.